You forgot our anniversary dinner. You always put yourself first.
This is why no one can ever truly love you.
You're just too selfish to be a real partner.
I remembered, I just couldn't cancel the hospital visit for my father.
You know the feeling. You did everything right this week. You showed up. You listened. You adjusted your plans again. And still, it wasn't enough. She needed you to text faster, to earn more, to be less quiet at her friends, to apologize before you even understood what you'd done wrong. So you apologized anyway because the alternative was worse. The alternative was that cold silence, the kind that lasts 2 days and makes you feel like a stranger in your own relationship. You started keeping a mental checklist. Say this, not that. Don't bring up your needs when she's stressed. Don't take too long in the shower when she's waiting. Don't have a bad day when she's already having one. And for a while, it worked. When you checked every box, she was warm. She was the person you fell for, but then you missed one. And she reminded you, not gently, exactly how much you'd failed. You began to wonder, is this love or is this a performance review? You started editing yourself before you opened your mouth. You rehearsed arguments in the shower. You planned exits from conversations that hadn't happened yet. You became an expert in her moods. You could read a one-word text and know exactly what it meant. You adjusted your entire evening around a tone of voice. You told yourself this was caring. This was attunement. This was what real love looked like. But somewhere underneath all that adjusting, a quieter thought started to surface. I'm exhausted, and I don't know who I am in this relationship anymore. That thought scared you. So you pushed it down and went back to checking boxes. This is the trap of conditional love, not the dramatic kind. No screaming, no broken plates, the quiet kind. The kind that looks like high standards from the outside. The kind that teaches you to seek external approval before trusting your own reality. You didn't lose yourself all at once. You gave yourself away, one small adjustment at a time. 2,000 years ago, a Roman emperor sat down at the end of long days of war and governance and wrote notes to himself, not to be published, not to be remembered, just to stay sane. His name was Marcus Aurelius. And the idea he returned to again and again was this: some things are in your control, most things are not. The Stoics called this the dichotomy of control. But forget the name. Here's what it actually means: your thoughts, your choices, your values, your responses. Yours, fully yours. No one can take them without your permission. Her mood, her approval, her love, her opinion of you. Not yours. We're Sybil. But nearly impossible to practice when you're in love, because when you love someone, their opinion starts to feel like information about reality. If she's cold, something must be wrong. If she's pleased, you must be doing something right. Her emotional weather becomes your internal compass. The Stoics called this externals, things outside your rational control that you mistakenly treat as if they define your worth: money, reputation, other people's opinions, health, even love, in some forms. Here's the key distinction. Caring about someone is not the same as handing them control of your self-worth. Think of it this way. Imagine you're a musician. You care deeply about your craft. Every night before you perform, you practice. You tune the instrument carefully. You show up with everything you have. But the audience's applause? You can't control that. Some nights they cheer. Some nights they're quiet. A bad crowd doesn't make you a bad musician. Now imagine you stopped practicing, not because you weren't good enough, but because you started performing for the applause rather than for the music. You'd get worse, and you'd be miserable because the thing you've given your worth to cannot be guaranteed. That's what conditional love does to you. It trains you to perform for applause instead of play for the music. The Stoic response isn't coldness. It isn't detachment. It isn't, I don't care what she thinks. It's something more precise. I care about acting with integrity. I cannot control whether she approves. This is the difference between a person who chooses and a person who reacts. One is at peace even in uncertainty. The other needs constant approval to feel stable. You've been the second person for too long. This video shows you how to become the first. It's a Tuesday night. You've been home for 20 minutes. She's at the kitchen table, phone face down, shoulders tight. You say, "Hey, rough day?" She says, "Fine." You know that tone. That one-word sentence carries 18 different meanings, and none of them are fine. Inside your head, the checklist activates immediately. Did I do something? Was it the text I sent at noon? Too short? Too casual? Should I have called instead? You make her tea, the specific kind she likes, and bring it without being asked. She doesn't look up. Now, the internal spiral tightens. She's punishing me for something. What did I miss? Should I ask? If I ask and I'm wrong, she'll be annoyed I made it about me. If I don't ask, she'll think I don't care. You sit across from her and try to read her face like it's a weather map. Are you sure you're okay? I said I'm fine. The temperature drops 5 degrees, so you start doing what you always do. You overfunction. You become hyper-present, hyper-attentive, filling the silence with small gestures, straightening the counter, asking if she wants dinner, laughing a little too easily when she says something neutral. You are trying to earn your way back into her warmth. An hour later, she's softer. She mentions something that happened at work. You listen perfectly. By bedtime, things are fine. But you go to sleep with a low-grade sense of depletion you can't name. You earn tonight, Akin. And tomorrow, you'll have to earn it again. This is what it costs when you outsource your emotional stability to someone else's mood. Same Tuesday, same kitchen, same tight shoulders. She says, "Fine." This time, something is different in how you hear it. You notice the tone. You notice the familiar pull in your chest, the automated impulse to investigate, to adjust, to fix. And then you do something small but decisive. You pause. Not visibly. She doesn't see this pause. But inside, you make a distinction. Her mood, not mine. My response, mine. You make the tea anyway, not to earn points, not to soften her silence, because making tea for someone you love when they've had a rough day is the kind of person you want to be. Regardless of what it earns you, you put it in front of her and say simply, "Here, take your time." Then you go sit in the other room and pick up your book. You don't hover. You don't overfunction. You don't try to decode her silences like they're code. You must crack to be safe tonight. Inside, you check in with yourself. Am I acting according to my values right now? Yes, you showed care. You gave space. You're present without being anxious. 20 minutes pass. She comes and sits next to you. "I'm sorry. My boss was terrible today. Tell me about it." And she does. The conversation is real this time. Not a transaction, not a performance. You didn't earn your way into it. You simply stayed yourself, and there was space for her to come toward you. Later, you notice something. You're not depleted. You didn't give yourself away tonight. You gave care from yourself, and that's a completely different experience. You're still in the same relationship, but you're a different person in it. 3 months later, a Saturday afternoon, she says she needs to talk. She tells you that your income isn't where she expected it to be at this point in your relationship, that her friends' partners are buying apartments, making certain salaries, taking certain vacations, that she doesn't know if you're moving in the right direction. The words land like stones. Inside, 2 things happen at once. The first is shame, hot, immediate shame. The kind that makes you feel 11 years old, found out inadequate. The second, under the shame, is rage. I work 60 hours a week. I've turned down other opportunities to prioritize this relationship. I have been showing up every single day, but the shame speaks louder. It always does. I know I'm not where I should be, you hear yourself say. I've been trying to figure it out. I'm sorry. She says, I just need to know you have a plan. So you spend the next 3 hours proving yourself. You show her spreadsheets you haven't thought about in months. You talk about opportunities you haven't fully committed to yet, framing them as certainties. You become a salesman for your own life, pitching your future to the person who should already be your partner. She softens. By evening, she says she feels better. You feel like you've passed a test you didn't know you were taking. 3 days later, she mentions it again, slightly differently, but the same core message. Your status, your trajectory, her expectations, the spreadsheet didn't actually fix it because it was never the real problem. The real problem is that her love has a price list and you've accepted the terms. Same Saturday, same conversation. She lays out her concerns, the income, the apartment, the trajectory, the comparison to other men. The shame rises. You feel it in your chest, that particular heat that makes you want to immediately apologize and prove yourself. But this time, before you respond, you do something different. You let the silence hold for a moment, not dramatically, not coldly, just honestly. Inside, you sort quickly. What is in my control here? Your financial decisions. Yours values around work. Yours. Your honest assessment of your own direction. Yours. What is not in my control? Whether she approves of where you are right now. You speak carefully. I hear you. I want to understand exactly what you're feeling. You ask her 2 or 3 real questions, not to deflect, but to understand what specifically worries her. Is this about security or is this about comparison? Is she afraid of something or is she setting a condition? She talks. You listen, not to build a defense, but to actually understand what's happening between you. Then you speak honestly. I've thought about our financial future seriously. I'm moving at a pace that reflects my actual values and priorities. I'm not where some people are, and I'm at peace with that. What I want to know is whether you can be in a relationship with who I actually am, not a version of me you're hoping I'll become. There's a long silence. She says she needs to think about it. You say, okay, and you mean it, not as a threat, not as a wall, as an honest acknowledgement that this is a real question, and she deserves real time to answer it. That night, you feel something you haven't felt in months, not the relief of having passed a test. Something cleaner, integrity. You said the true thing. You held your own ground without cruelty. You gave her the real you, and let her choose. A week later, she tells you she's been thinking. That maybe she's been measuring you by the wrong ruler. Maybe the conversation opens something. Maybe it ends the relationship. Either way, you walked through that door as yourself. That's what clarity feels like. Tonight, do this, not sometime this week. Tonight, take a piece of paper, threck a line down the middle. On the left side, write, things I'm anxious about in this relationship. List everything. Her moods, her approval, whether she thinks you're enough, what she says to her friends about you, whether she compares you to other men. On the right side, write the same list. But next to each item, ask honestly, can I control this? Go through every item on the left. For anything on the right that is outside your control, circle it. Don't cross it out. Don't judge yourself for having written it. Just mark it clearly. This is an external. Then, for each item on the left that is in your control, underline it. These are your actual domain. Spend 5 minutes with just the underlined items. Ask yourself, am I handling this with integrity? Not perfectly, not impressively, honestly. Now do the second exercise. Think of one moment this week where you adjusted yourself, your words, your behavior, your plans, specifically to manage her emotional state, rather than because it was the right thing to do. Write it down in one sentence. Be specific. I apologized on Monday even though I wasn't wrong because I didn't want her to go cold. Read it out loud. Notice how it feels to name it clearly. This is not a judgment. This is data. You cannot change behavior you refuse to see. The last step. Write one sentence about how you could have handled that moment differently. From your own values, not from fear of her reaction. Keep that sentence somewhere visible. Tomorrow morning, read it before you start your day. Do this 3 times this week. Not every day, 3 times. Let it become a real practice, not a one-time moment. Walking away with clarity is not the same as leaving with bitterness. Bitterness needs an enemy. Clarity just needs the truth. The Stoics didn't teach people to stop loving. They taught people to love from a place that couldn't be taken, from character, from choice, from a self that exists whether or not it's approved of. When you stop needing her approval to know your own worth, something shifts. Not in her, in you. You become capable of real love because you're no longer afraid of what real love costs. You can give without losing yourself. You can stay without disappearing. And if you must leave, you leave as yourself, not as a person who was finally done being managed. That's what this philosophy offers. Not invulnerability, not detachment, just the quiet freedom of knowing who you are, independent of who she decides you are on any given day. You deserve a love that doesn't require you to earn it every morning. If this video gave you one honest moment of recognition, share it with someone who needs it. Hit follow for more on Stoic philosophy applied to the relationships you're actually living. And in the comments, tell me one thing you've been adjusting about yourself that you know, deep down, wasn't really yours to fix.